how to buy properties from auctions. So 2 days ago, what's the day? 3 days ago, I bought a ex-guest house from auction, and I just thought I'd share my experiences.
But before we get into that, if you're new to this channel, make sure you stroke that like and subscribe button. Really helps out the algorithms, and you'll get notified with more content like this and other videos all around property investing mindset.
With buying from auction, I bought a number of properties over the years from auctions. Not my favourite strategy, buying from auction, by the way, but I feel you should be open to all the different ways of buying properties. If you want to buy properties, you should be open to all the different ways, and potentially do like the 70-20-10 sort of strategy. 70% of your energy is from your main way of buying properties, where you put your focus on 20% on a secondary one and 10% on a third. You could carve that up completely different. So you might say, for me, 70% of my energy is with agents and getting properties from agents. 30% of my energy would be getting properties direct to vendor, and 10% would be keeping an eye on the auctions. Don't often go to the auction rooms. Don't often go on online auctions, but I found myself on this one the other day, so the unique opportunities. So as I said, I bought a 7-bedroom ex-guest house from auction for £124,500, £500 less than my maximum bid, so I got it slightly lower. But I'm going to show you some pros and cons of buying from auction. There is definitely some pros and cons from it, but you've got to be careful in auctions. It's probably the thing with auctions is it's full of first-time investors that watch Homes Under the Hammer, and there's a common myth. Everybody thinks you should be getting stuff from auction. Some of the bigger stuff works better, particularly houses, especially like 3-bedroom BRR style houses. They end up going for more money than they actually go. Sometimes even online. Like I know people, Andrew, who come through my training program, she goes and buys properties from estate agents on Rightmoves and just puts them straight into the auction without doing a thing to them, and earns sort of like 10, 15k. And she's been doing this consistently, even in this hot market. So she's just taking a house, not doing a thing to it, putting it straight in auction and selling it for 10k plus profit on a lot of these. I'm not sure exactly what her profit's been. So the reason she's able to do that is because auctions are run on emotions. So you've got to be so careful when you go to auctions on managing your emotions to make sure that you don't get too carried away with your bids. But we'll cover a lot of that in today's training. I've got my makeshift sort of stand here, so I'm going to do my best to use this. It's a bit of a wobbly stand, so I'm not sure how well it's going to work out here, but I'll do my best. As I said, this is me properly remote investing. This deal's going on while remote investing. So I'll do my best to use this, but if it wobbles about too much, I'll just do an explanation. So let's get started. Let's turn this camera around. So there's definitely some pros and cons from buying from auctions. So you've really got to figure out what these pros and cons are. So the pros and cons from buying from auction. Let's get one of these pens. Let's put the pros over here. This light is not the greatest. And let's put the cons over here. I'm not sure how this board's going to last. Also, I had to quickly go and buy some pens because I left my pens at home. Brought my board with me, but I left my pens at home. But yeah, so pros and cons. Pros of buying from auctions are basically there's no gazumping. And by the way, I'm not sure how to spell gazump because I'm a bit dyslexic. The idea of the whiteboard is purely to give you a bit of a visual on what we're doing. It helps with the learning, not to be grammatically correct. I'm a bit dyslexic, so apologies to any grammar police that see the spelling. But pros are, there's no gazumping, the speed of purchase, so there's no messing around, having solicitors hold you up. There's no sort of, like you get a set date and you have to complete in that date, which is usually 28 to 56 days. That can be a pro and also a con, so I'm going to touch on that again in a minute. But you've all, that's like the pro of that is you're getting your property, you're not messing around in with legals and all stuff like this. But a con of that is, so if you only got 28 days to complete, you cannot get this on a mortgage in 28 days. One of the little tips is that the property I've just negotiated it, and we've got it on a term for 56 days. It had a 28-day completion date, but I was coming to Holland the day after I was bidding on it. I'm in Holland for quite a while. Also, there's I wanted to get the planning application in ASAP. Yeah, there was quite a bit I wanted to do in between time. So and I'm also got two options of doing private finance or bridging and development finance. So I want to mould it over and work out. So I didn't want to rush. So I negotiated with them and said I'd only bid if I get 56 days. You can do that. You can also your fees. So fees, auction fees, usually like about 6% to 10%. Or a fixed fee, like the Great Northern Auction, I think it's called, has got a fixed fee of 5k plus VAT. Well, I think they've all got a fixed minimum like that, you know. So then it's either what they're 6% or 10%, or their minimum fixed. So the extra fee cannot be added to a mortgage, cannot be offset against anything. It's just a fee that goes straight out of your pocket. So you've got to think of that as one of your pros and cons with that. But as I said, speed can work on your side if you are in a position to move fast. You either need bridging really or cash. But again, cost of tying up cash is an opportunity cost when you tie up cash. So if you buy in cash, potentially that one property you bought for cash, you could buy 2 or 3 properties. But that depends if you can find 2 or 3 properties. In today's market, it's going to be difficult to find 2 or 3 properties. So it might be better to put it into one property that's going to be giving you a return. But you've always got to look at the opportunity cost. Bridging, there's a cost of bridging. So, or even private finance with cash, you've got to pay sort of like the bridging offers. I've had 3 lenders give me a decision in principle, and basically it's around 0.8% I'm going to be paying, plus the entry fees. Some have got an exit fee, some haven't got exit fees. So there's quite a lot of fees around it, around that. But the good pro with the bridging is they will lend on the development also element of it. So they will lend you for the refurbishment, and the offers I've got is for the refurbishment and 70% of the purchase price. So it saves me having to find as much money, but it's going to cost me more money as a result, because I'm going to be paying interest on that loan. One thing, pros with auctions, is there is a lot of motivated sellers in there. And the best deals come from motivated sellers. So whether you're buying them via agents, via direct to vendors, whatever way you buy them, you can buy motivated. You can get, if you motivated sellers is the people that you're going to get most deals from. Hence why at the moment there's not as many deals out there, because it's a seller's market. It's not sellers are not as motivated at the moment, purely because they can sell their house quite easy. So if you can sell your house quite easy, you're not really going to be motivated to sell it for cheaper, are you? So definitely a seller's market at the moment. But there is still deals out there. As I said, I've got deals in there. If you're in TikTok, I'll be posting in a little while the deals that we've got going on at the moment. So if you're not on TikTok, head over to my TikTok, Harvey Grove Properties, and have a look at that. So another con with this is you have to pay your a deposit on the day and a commitment. So you have to pay on the day, and if you do not complete in this time period, you'll lose this money. And they're pretty strict on this on most of the auctions. So if you're buying just through a normal traditional way, if it drags on longer than you're expecting it to, it just drags on basically. But they're strict if you don't meet these conditions, or if you pull out. So if you pay this deposit and you pull out, so you have to make sure when you get there, you definitely know you're going to buy this. If you pull out, then basically you're going to lose that. I know on TikTok it is a little bit hard to see the whiteboard. If you go to my Harvey Grove Properties Facebook group, you'll see it on there. The recording will be in there later on as well if you want to find that later on. Another con is overpaying for stuff. As I said, we are emotional beings. We do things emotionally and justify it logically afterwards, and that's beyond our level of conscious thinking. Even though we think consciously, we wouldn't do something emotionally. Emotionally, we get emotionally hijacked from our emotions and feelings, and our feelings are much more powerful than our logical thinking mind. So logically, you would say to yourself, I'm going to go to an auction, I'm only going to bid this much. And you just get sucked into that emotion. And auctioneers, really good auctioneers, are really good at this. Even the online ones. The online guy was phoning you up saying, "Oh look, one more bidder probably do it." The funny thing is, on the offer I just had accepted, I spoke to the underbidder. The guy that was underbidding me got told that his bid didn't go through, and I won my bid £1,000 less. So he got told. The bid could be still open when he thought it's ended, so then he rebid it even though it ended. So auctioneers are allowed up until the guide price to generate and fake bid these, you know. So overbidding is one thing because of your emotions, and we'll work on dealing with them. But also there's a thing called bidding off the wall. And I learnt this the hard way, because the first deal I ever bought, sorry, forget how to spell wall there, simple thing. The first deal I ever bought was from auction, and I bought a piece of land which was, and yesterday I've done a video as well about the reason I bought this guest house, which is a 7-bedroom development into 6 apartments, is because I've got foundation of single-lets. And you learn this from Monopoly. I talked about this. Monopoly learns you so many simple lessons with fundamental. 4 greenhouses, 1 hotel. 4 greenhouses, 1 hotel. If you rush on Monopoly to buy, you go bankrupt. You run out of money. You get spread too thin. That's why it's great. I've done this yesterday. It's great to build up a nice foundation of properties as a pyramid. So at the bottom, get your nice single-let properties that give you a residual income. You cut your teeth learning how to do smaller stuff and smaller refurbs, and then you build up to some of the bigger stuff. So that's why I was buying that. But I didn't know this lesson right at the start of my journey. My first property purchase was a piece of land that I was looking to put 2 3-bedroom houses in there. My due diligence wasn't the greatest. My courage was there. I went to the room, and I went in the room. You get sucked into the atmosphere. And I went in the room, thinking I'm going to pay 30k for this maximum. And I got advice from somebody saying, yeah, you probably could get planning on there. Although there was a lot of hurdles and issues which I was unaware of, because my experience wasn't there for that. So I've gone to the room. They started the bids off around. It had a guide price of 30,000. They started the bids off around 31, and he kept on going backwards and backwards. He got to 29, and he went 29. Yep. 29 and a half, yep. He went 30, and I thought 30 is the max I'd play. So nervously, I stuck my hand up, and they went boom. And the hammer went down. It felt like as my hand went up, the hammer simultaneously, even before my hand got to the top, it went like that. Boom, yours, sold. I was like, oh wow. I bought a piece of land. Don't congratulate me yet, because I end up procrastinating massively on that. I end up having loads of challenges with it. End up losing a lot of money, going through planning, holding costs I hold from that, the purchasing cost. I end up not developing it and selling it about 6 years later at a massive loss. But then I found, when I sold it, I went back to the same auctioneer to sell it, and this is when I found out about these bids off the wall. So the bids off the wall is the auctioneer is legally allowed to create dummy bids up until the point of the guide price. So, for example, this was £30,000, so he made a dummy bid at £29,000 just to try and get the room going. And how I found this out was, as I said, when I went back to sell it, the auctioneer was like, oh, I remember this a lot, I remember selling it. Yeah, I remember, yeah, it was a difficult one, I had a few issues around it, trying to get the planning, blah, blah. I said, what we'll do is, if I can't get any bids going, we'll try and get a few dummy bids bouncing off the wall. But he said, I remember it last time, it was difficult, we didn't have many people register for this one, so it was difficult. And I was like, dummy bids off the wall? That's definitely what he must have done to me. And I spoke to a few people telling them what the auctioneer told me, and I went, yeah, that happens in auctions. It's called bidding off the wall. And I was like, oh wow, so I definitely experienced that and got that done to me at the start. So very be aware of this. This can happen online as well. See, the thing is, in the room, what you've got in the room is, if you go to the room and you go to the back of the room, you've got to be quite eagle-eyed. But if you look where the auctioneer's eyes are going, you can see if he's genuinely getting bids. So you can see, like, if you're quick, you have to be sharp, but you can see if there's genuine bids or he's just making bids off the wall. Some Ranjan called it bids off the chandelier, but the auctioneer told me bids off the wall. So if you're really sharp, you can see that. So you'll know if they're just fake bids or not, and they're legally allowed to do it, by the way. So it's not something they're doing underhanded. They're legally allowed to do it. They're allowed to do this online, but you can't see that. So again, this is what happened with the underbidder who bid on the property, because I posted the property. If you check out in my TikTok or on my Instagram, Harvey Grove Properties, or even on my Facebook group, Remote Property Investing Community, I've posted the property I've bought, the big 7-bedroom guest house. And because I posted it on there, the guy that was underbidding me, and he's in my remote gold mine location, I've got a good network there. I know him and he knows me, so he messaged me in Messenger and said, I was the underbidder for it. And then when I spoke to him, I said, I'd love to get you, because this is a powerful thing. When you go to the room, if you can speak to the underbidders or the overbidders and see what their plan and scheme was for the property you was bidding on, this can really help you get an understanding whether or not their scheme is just betting you. Because sometimes you can bid more because your scheme's good, because the income you can generate from it. If you can generate an income from it, you can get a commercial valuation. So the bricks and mortar goes out the window. So if you speak to people, this really helps you educate and network a little bit more. So he contacted me and said, I was underbid. I said, do you want to jump on the call? And he went, I'm also got some money. So I've put it out there and said to people, look, I've got the bridging finance for it, but if somebody wants to earn and learn, which an earn and learn means they bridge me the money, they say, give me private finance for it, but they're allowed to sit on my shoulder, watch what I do with the planning, watch what I do with everything, and I'll have regular calls with them, take them to site, and they can learn as it's going along, and then I'll just pay them an interest pretty much the same as what I'd pay the banks. So I put it out there because I thought, if I'm going to give this to a bridging company, I'd rather give it to somebody in their pocket if I find the right person and the right fit. And I'm overwhelmed. I've got probably over 15 people that's contacting me for it. Still hoping, I'm still talking to people, so if anybody's interested in that, give me a DM. But one of the guys was the underbidder. He said, I'm interested in it. I had a chat with him. I looked at what his scheme was. But that's a fantastic thing when you're in the room. But you've got to be careful because online you don't know when this is happening. And the auctioneer phoned me up and he said to me, it was at 21 and a half. My maximum was 25, but I didn't put it straight in because I didn't trust the auctioneer to push that up in case it didn't go to where it's meant to go. And it got to 21, around 21,000, and the auctioneer phoned me up and said, do you want to increase? I said, I don't want to keep on just going into a bidding. Don't seem like it's slowing down. He said, I think one more bid will do it. I've spoke to the other people, I know where their maxes was, and one more will do it. I spoke to that guy and he told me his max was 125, so the auctioneer was just using tactics to get me going again. I did have my maximum anyway and I didn't go above that.
Just another quick reminder, if you're enjoying this, please give this a like, smash the subscribe button. It really helps the algorithms with this, push it out there and give me an understanding knowing that you are liking this and I'll make more content like this.
But that is one of the tips. So when you're looking at this, some of the tips you can be thinking about is setting a maximum before you go to the auctioneer, to the auction. Maybe turn up to the auction. So before you ever bid at auction, especially if you're going in the room, even online, it's like eBay, your adrenaline gets pumping. So it's beyond your level of, unless you're a yogi and you can really use meditation. And that is a tip. If you do a breathing exercise, take six breath, calm the senses. I'm definitely not spelled that right, I couldn't think, but take 6 calm the breath senses. You can deactivate the stress hormone and calm your senses, but you've got to be really mastered at this and really good at doing it. So, but no matter how good you're doing it, you're going to have adrenaline rushing, and that's when emotions start coming in, and you've got to learn to manage them, and that is a way to manage them. If you do your breathing exercise or box breathing, box breathing is basically you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe in for 4 seconds. You do about 6 rounds of that. That is what Navy SEALs use when they're in action, in a line of fire, to calm down their reactions and everything. So scientifically proven, the people have been put on brain scans to prove that. But managing your emotions are massive. Maybe go to the auction a few times or go online a few times and set that dummy bid in your head and see if you would have stuck to it and how you would have, and see how your emotions are as it gets closer. Because as you get closer to your number, you really get going. And different auctions are very different. So Allsops, for example, when the auction's open, the bidding just starts. Was it a great North auction, or I can't remember the name of the auction, I just won this one in. But that auction, you could bid on it before auction. Like online, you could bid on it out of auction, but you could bid on it on auction online. So before the end, like 2 days beforehand, it had a bid on it 107. So 3 people would bid. But in the room, when you go to the actual online auction, it had a 12 o'clock deadline, but every time someone bids again, it gets a new 10-minute reset, which is kind of like in the room. If somebody bids, the auctioneer goes around the room, but usually does the going once, going twice, hammer sort of thing, where this is 10 minutes, so it gives someone a lot of time. So I had an offer accepted on my one at 23,500, and it went down to the last second. It even ended, and I know it ended anyway. Again, this is the auctioneers playing online tricks, and they're legally allowed to do it because it's not met the guide price yet. So yeah, it ended, and he got him to rebid it, and the auctioneer phoned me up. I thought I'd won it. I was kind of celebrating, and yeah, he phoned me up and went, no, there was one last second, and there wasn't, to be fair, because I found out from the guy, because I spoke to him. He got phoned up as well, said, you got he got phoned up and he bid on it after he thought it ended. So yeah, this goes on, and it legally goes on. So you've got to be really careful of that happening. But some other tips are buying. Let's do this in a different colour. Some other tips are buying before auction and post auction. So post auction, I've won. So as I said, auctions are not my favourite way of buying, but I would still buy from auction. I bought my first one and got split stung on that first deal. Probably lost around 10k on that first one. Probably a little bit more than 10k on that first one, but my ego is only happy to settle with the 10k. But when you buy beforehand, as I said, it's not my favourite, but I'll still buy from auction. I'll buy from anywhere, long as the figures match right for me. But when you buy beforehand, a really good tip is the day of the auction, bid then, because people can sometimes get cold feet. So I bid on a property before. I knew the auction. A lot of auctioneers get estate agents to do the viewings for them and then take it back off of them and put it to the auction. This was an online auction as well. No, it was in the room and online. Some of them do the mixture, or they can do the phone bids. So this auction was going to the room 7 o'clock in the evening. The auctioneer that was dealing with it, office is shut at 5 o'clock. So I phoned them up at 4:30 and started my bidding. The auctioneer again was using tactics to sell to me, saying, "Oh, we've had loads of interest. You need to up that." The estate agent that I knew really well and built a relationship with told me that only 3 people had viewed the property. So straight away I knew I had the leverage. I knew they wasn't. Sometimes they tell the truth and sometimes they don't. Just had a situation with 2 of the people I coached, and both of them been on the same property. And the auction and the estate agent was telling him, "We've had an iron offer, so you need to get your stuff in quick, but we're going to go with you." Sometimes they just say that just to get you moving forward and make you commit to the deal. This time that they was correct, because I knew the person that did bid higher. So sometimes they're telling the truth, sometimes they're not. You just don't know. Their intention is to sell properties, not to try and stroke your ego or really be friendly to you. And they work for the seller. And auctioneers work obviously on a commission, so the bigger the price, the better. Depending on what the price is, if it's under usually 100k, then for them it's not so much of a bother because they've got a set price. So, but when it goes above that, obviously they're on a percentage, so they get more from it. But a tip is, before auction, the day of the auction, I phoned up the office at 4:30, started my negotiations. I knew only 3 people who had viewed it, so I knew that person was probably going to be a little bit nervous and had them last minute jitters. But also a little tip was, when I bid on this, I actually said, this is the price. I can't remember how much it was. I think it was like 71k. I said, I'll give 71k now if they accept it. I'll do this outside of auction as well, just a little psychology tip. But if they say no and go to the room, my bid's no longer 71k. So if they don't achieve that, my bid will be lower. So if they want to take 71k now, if they get more than that in the room, they take the gamble and go to the room and get more. Good luck to them. But if they don't get more, that bid is no more live. My bid's gonna go back. So you start your bidding up here at maybe 65. And then what you say to them is you slowly creep up. You've got half hour to do it. You go back to the forwards. You creep up to your max bid. You go up, okay, or the max you would do before auction. You might go slightly more, and you can change your mind. But you say to them, look, 71 is my max. If they don't accept that and it don't win that in the room, they take the gamble. My bid's going back to 65. So they can take that now or take the gamble, and I'll take the gamble going to the room, because if they don't reach 71, I'm going to give them less money for it. That's how you can get some deals done. We've got a few deals done like that. Post auction, very much the same again. Approach the auctioneer, and you can even get them, even where it bid to, offer where it bid to. So if the max bid was like 110, then just go in at 110. They might have said no at the time, but then afterwards they become even more motivated. Their emotions are even more higher. So if you just go in as like a person who bid 110 probably walked away, and you go up to them and say, look, I'll give you 110, or maybe even 111. You can potentially, sometimes I've seen people even get them lower than it was in the room, because a person, particularly who's bidding this 110, might bid on the next lot, won the next lot, now no longer wants it at 110. You know, so start them negotiations afterwards. As I said, another little tip in auctions is to definitely, let's do this in a different colour, definitely network. So the power of networking in the room is, for instance, you might be a deal sourcer or a deal packager. This is a great place to find investors, because if they've not won a bid on a property and you know that you've watched them bid on a property in the area, or you find deals, you can say to them, I know you didn't win that bid, but this is like, if you've got your investor pack and your deal proposal, anybody wants a free deal proposal, put it in the comments. I'll give you a free deal proposal. But if you show them these deal proposal, deals that you look at and what you've done, if you've never done a deal before, just put on this proposal all the numbers of the deals that you look at and what you would bid for it, not what you've potentially bought. You say to them, look, these are the sort of deals we look at in the same area, you just bid on that one. Do you want to give us your email, and next time we've got a deal go through like that, we'll ping you through and we'll have a chat, blah, blah, blah. And you could potentially pick up some really, really good investors. As I said, you can also network with them and find out what their schemes was, what they was planning to do on it, and you can further your education and find potential JV partners. So really, really great place for networking. As I said, going back to in the room emotions, it is so important. I know I just talked about that sixth breath. It's so important to get your max amount that you're setting for this property and sticking to it. It's really, really, don't go a pound over that, you know, just get that max amount and just stick to that, because you can so easily get sucked in. What happens with auctions, and this is why Andrea does such a good job at buying properties and putting straight in now. People are emotional beings. We do things emotionally and justify it logically afterwards. So in an emotional situation, whether it's an online auction or in the room, your emotions and your heart is pumping high. So the better you can manage that, the better you can do these box breathing exercises or these take 6 calm the senses. As I said, ping me a message and I'll send you over a guidance video of how to do that. But the better you can manage that, the more disciplined you're going to be. And it's difficult, as I said, it's beyond the level of conscious thinking. Emotions hijack our conscious thinking. This is why a lot of people will go to an, and the thing is, you've not got a chance to get buyers from auction in auction. If you go to an auction, you've got to put that fee down, you've got to pay there and then. So if you put a way out from it after that, that's it, you've lost out. Another thing you've got to make sure is you've done your due diligence on it, because if there's something in the legal pack or if there's something like wrong with the property and you've not done the full due diligence, again, you're not going to get your money back out of it, you know. So your only option is to potentially flip it back in the auction. But again, if an property goes into the auction twice, has already been in auction, and someone does a due diligence on that, again, that could be quite a dangerous telltale sign that something's wrong with it, and then you might not achieve the same amount of money as you got offered on it previously. So many things you've got to look out for when you're in that auction room. But again, going back to the simple principles of monopoly and why I'm bidding on this is the reason I'm looking at this. So when I first started, I tried going to the top, and like development stuff is right at the top of the thing here. But realistically, you want a foundation and simpler stuff to learn and cut your teeth and experience, because no matter how experienced you are, challenges come up. And it's not a case of avoiding challenges, being experienced and avoiding challenges. It's a case of knowing how to navigate the challenges that come up. And the more experienced you are, the better your network is, the more resources and access you've got to funds, the more easy you can navigate that. The reason I took on this guest house is because I know I've got a good network, a good access to funds, I earn okay myself, that if I do hit these troubles, I've got good networks of builders, architects, good network of investors, and I've got a good access to funds myself, and access to funds via my own portfolio built up, and an income. So for example, always make sure you manage the downside risk when you go into auction. So if you buy something like what I've just bought, that is a bit of a development, then you want to be thinking, what if I get stuck on the development finance? What if planning don't go through in time? What if, like development finance on this particular deal, or even at 125k or just short of 125k, it's just shy of £800 a month. So if you go over that fixed term of a year, you can really start eating into your profit, especially there's not massive margins upwards on the false depreciation. Also, there's penalties if you go over. So it can really kill a deal. So you've got to make sure you've got that network knowledge. So basically, if you start off with buy to let, just BRR, so you just do these up, buy refurbished remortgage, sort of refinance style ones. Start off with them, cut your teeth, do simpler. I call it the KISS refurb. So keep it simple, stupid, and that can mean from the Navy, Army SEALs, and wasn't the SEALs, but just the US Navy, and basically keep the refurbs under sort of 15k, because there will be challenges you have along the way. There will be things you don't budget for. Not all builders will budget for everything, or some builders don't know how to budget and quote, and they get to the end and go, oh, we need more work. So when you're playing with 10, 15k, when it goes out, it's a manageable risk. Similar again, the reason I've jumped up, so when you go up the ladder here, you look at then HMOs, maybe SAs, because they're more managed intensement. So you've got used to managing single let properties, you now can jump up to HMOs and SAs. Basically, they're much more management intensive, but especially HMOs are more development intensive. Today is gone where you could just have magnolia walls, 5 doors, chuck a bed in there. People want HMOs like boutique hotels with en suites, and they cost quite a lot. They cost on average 10k per unit to develop. you don't want to be taking on a development like that with a builder that goes bust halfway through or don't know how to develop it. But even if they do, if you've got a good network and you've built up your credibility, your network, you've cut your teeth and you've built up some funds, and you've got, ultimately down here, you've got a recurring income from your buy-to-lets. Say for instance your development finance £800 a month and you've got 10 buy-to-lets giving you three or £2,500 a month. These buy-to-lets can pay the development finance, so you've got your way out of that. Similar again, I tried doing a project which was an option on a commercial property to develop it into a 14-bed HMO, all en suites, all self-containing. And at the time, the development finance was nearly on 2k. I didn't have 2k. My buy-to-lets wouldn't have paid that. But I had to put down them as security, so I would have lost them. And I didn't have the experience of struggling to find a build. I didn't know if that was the right estimate. There was lots of planning sort of challenges on there. So yeah, I walked away from that, and it was the right decision. But then the next stage up from this is like your commercial conversions, which is what I'm kind of doing. But I've got HMOs. I've got the foundation of the income, because when you get the HMOs, the income from this is much higher. So you've got a lot of, like, you might earn £1,000 per property. Same again over the SAs, you might earn 1k a property per month as opposed to like £200, £300, £400. So the income from this then starts supporting the development finance on this bigger stuff. But also your experience as you build up and you do slightly bigger projects allows you to have the network for when you do get the challenges, for when the builder does go bust. I just see Mark Homer to complete something, one of the greatest property minds in the property space, and on this last development done, they went through 3 builders, and in the end, he project managed it himself. On the last, they went through 2 builders. One went bust halfway through. Can't remember what happened to the other one. So this happens. It just happens, and it's because he's got a lot of skill, knowledge, and resources, fund-wise and network-wise, that he could manage that through and still make that profitable. If you didn't have that, then you could come completely unstuck. And there is 4 major things that there's 4 major things that makes a deal work and anything work. So it's knowledge. This is any business. Money. Network. And right in the middle of this triangle is time. So often you've not got all 4 of these. You very, very rarely got all 4 of these. And be fair, you can get going with just one of them. If you've got lots of time, you can spend that time knowledging yourself and networking. So then you can attract money. If you've got lots of money, you can then attract people with knowledge and network and time, you know, or you might attract somebody with time and knowledge and you've got the money and network, you know. So you don't need all of these, by the way. Money is probably one of the least important ones. The most important one is this time. And what you'll find, if people have got knowledge and network and they've got busy businesses, they often are missing this middle one, which is time, which is the most valuable one out of them all, you know. So you can use sweat equity and time equity to really leverage for a lot of people, but you've got to show your effort and commitment for your knowledge and your networking to network and getting online, showing yourself online. So yeah, that just really helps with getting yourself an understanding of that. Remember, if you don't evolve your ideas, you're never going to live on your own terms. So evolve your ideas, live on your own terms, have a fantastic day.